Okay, so welcome to the third Tivian Masterclass session. Today we're looking at our Tivian Dashboards. Much like the photo, the sun is about to set on the late summer bloom in England with a return to rain here in London over the next week. However, I hope some of you are getting some better weather out there. So I'm Jay Hartley, the UK Customer Success Manager, and I've got the pleasure of Ludger's company again this week. Ludger, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. Ludger Kesting, my name, product specialist at Tivian, and looking forward to show you the new Tivian Dashboards today.
So to recap, we are halfway through our webinar series and have already established how to host any activity via the portal, collect the feedback through the guide, and today we're going to look at how you can present the data in one of our configurable Tivian dashboards. Before we then complete the masterclass next week by looking at custom MySite dashboards that our BI team can deliver. Before handing over to Ludger, I'm just going to recap the areas we've covered already, as the portals, guides, and Tivian dashboards really do come as a package. And whilst you can use each on its own, the benefit comes from joining them all together and obviously giving them to your end users for everyday use. So the portals, if you remember, are the hosting website that you can use to set up for customers or colleagues. A series of modules will allow you to create a fully functional permission control website without you needing to have any particular website skills. And they can host the guides, supporting information, and dashboards. The guides are the workflows that we have built in, and they enable you to put the power of feedback into end users' hands. They can be linked to the predefined surveys, and they've got many flexible use cases, including CX measurement, any number of EX feedback processes, and of course, leadership assessment. So today we're going to start looking at the Tivian dashboards, and each of those guide types that we've built comes with its own predefined Tivian dashboard. They are dashboards that have been designed by our BI team to present the insight in cutting-edge visualizations. There's lots of help texts throughout them as well to make sure that end users can interpret these without the need to have really strong analytical backgrounds. You as administrators can follow a few simple steps to configure these dashboards and then put them in the hands of your end users. We've also then, beyond Tivian dashboards, got the ability to hook up with Tableau using MySite dashboards. These require some Tableau expertise, and you can get this from your excellent BI team if you've not got the in-house capabilities. And we're going to take a look at those next week. But now that I've set the scene, I'm going to hand over to Ludger, and he's going to take us through the configuration and the use cases for the different Tivian dashboards. So as we walk through this, as always, please be sure to enter any questions into the chat, and Ludger probably will be the one that will try and get the answers for you. So without further ado, let me hand over to Ludger.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, let's have a very quick look at what we will cover then today with the Tivian dashboards for guides specifically. So today we will have a look at the modules guide. So you saw in the last session potentially how a guide is configured, how a personalized survey is connected to the portal. And now we see how the results come in and how the results are visualized. And this through the Tivian dashboards that are pre-configured and have really templates that that show the data in a nice and easy way, and you don't have to design it essentially. Has of course advantages and of course a little bit disadvantages that it's not exactly styled for a specific survey, but it's dynamic enough so that it accepts the different page types, the different categories that you can also set in the survey, and clusters the results based on this information, so either pages or the different categories that you set in the survey. And currently we start with 3 basic dashboard templates, one for basic surveys where you see the questions, then you see the answer distributions, you have some configuration that I will show you in a moment. Then we have a category dashboard that assumes that you have different categories in a survey. Those could be, again, based on these categories that you set in each EFS question, or it uses the question pages to categorize the data. And then we have, for one specific use case, a 360-degree feedback dashboard that's often used for leadership development in employee experience use cases. There will be many more dashboard templates available in the future, but we start with these. And of course, your feedback maybe for the early users is welcome, so that we can work and enhance the dashboards where required and also add new templates that fulfill a specific purpose. So much from the presentation. Now I jump into my browser and you should see the Enterprise Feedback Suite back end now. Last time my colleague Kartik showed you of how to configure here a guide. So you set the survey, you configured this here in the portal as a guide and went through all these configuration options. And then the last tab here, not the last, but the second last one, are the results. And there are a few configuration options. First of all, when the data should be shown, or when the access to the dashboard should be possible, so immediately after the guide was started, or after the guide was ended. Maybe so in a case, let's say, of a leadership survey, you let all your colleagues and peers give you a rating and then you review the data. But of course, in other use cases, if you do a pulse survey, employee experience or customer experience, you maybe want to see the data, how it comes in, and want to track it live. And that's also a little bit a difference to the MySite dashboard, that in this case for the Tivian dashboards, the data is really live and comes in without a delay. Okay, we see that here the configuration, and this is really how the dashboards are configured. So you essentially don't need to design it. You don't have to put charts on a whiteboard or something like that. It uses then these templates. You can decide if you want to use MySite dashboards, and my colleague David will show you this next week. And here we selected actually Tivian dashboards, which is here still labeled Questback dashboards. As you know, we're rebranded, and this will then change in the new systems, of course. But anyway, if I select this, I see here a number of configuration options. First, I see the dashboard template. And here we see that this specific guide is using the multi-category guide. We also have here this basic guide and the multi-rater guide. So this is the one for a 360 leadership survey, for example, where you have different rater groups. So it's normally like a person who initiates the feedback, and then there are different groups, team members, peers, the boss or something like that, who also gives feedback to this person. And then the person in the center of this feedback can evaluate, hey, where are my strengths and my weaknesses, and where do I need support for professional development in my career. Okay, but let's first stick with the multi-category guide. We pointed to a page in the portal, and here it's just called results. We can click there and go to that page. There's not a lot to see. There's just a module that is called dashboards, and then we see actually it's this one here. We see that here dashboards we can put in the header. Otherwise, there's nothing to configure. So let's go back to my guide quickly to go through the options. And is this my guide? So is this my guide? Sorry, let's go here again. Sorry. There's some configuration that links to the technical setup of these dashboards. This will change in the future. This is something that we will provide you currently at this stage. In the next iteration of these dashboards, there will be a configuration interface where you can get this yourselves, but currently we will send this to you, so don't worry about this. Then you can actually do something basic. You can do some brand coloring. You can color the neutral score, high score, low score, and you have some basic configurations dependent on the dashboard template. If you want to show the mean score, in this case, the survey uses a 5-point scale, or if you want to use percent favorable. So on the 5-point scale, this would be the answers 4 and 5, the top answers. If you want to use an historic trend, so if you run the guide multiple times, so you ask maybe your team 2-3 times for feedback as a small pulse survey, then the system will indicate a trend to the last guide that you initiated. If you run it 5 times, it will also create you a best-in-class benchmark essentially internally. So it will say that it will aggregate the results of the last 5 runs of this guide and show you this as an internal benchmark. You can also use the anonymity threshold, then it will hide all answers or all questions that have less than 5 answers. And you can do some widget configuration if you want to see an overall KPI. That means it aggregates all existing questions, or if it should show you tips and tricks. And you can also provide us with specific learnings or material that is directly linked to this guide. And then there's an area where the users can click and see this content and go maybe to a learning platform or to some advice that you want to give. If we save this, then let's have a look at how this looks like in the portal. So here I have a quick team check survey for a manager, and I started this already, have some answers here. I did this actually 2 times so that I can show you some historic trend. I go to details and I see this actually still running, but because it's live, I can go to live results and I can configure it that the dashboard shows immediately up. And now you see directly here the multi-category template. So we see here, this is this main KPI that is now aggregating all the questions. So in this case, we have 4 questions here to a main KPI. I initiated this guide 2 times already, and that is why this is building up a trend. So it shows me based or compared to the last guide you started, you actually improved the scores. And then I see the different categories. In this case, this guide is set up to just use the questions, so the pages and then questions on it. If you have different categories used in your survey, then those items here could be also different categories like engagement, team performance, or whatever it might be that your survey is about. You see here we use here the mean, the average score. I can now drill into one of these. I see here just one question. There could be multiple ones that you will see in another example in a moment, and I see how the answers are distributed. This is quite simple. But I can also, based on my configuration, modify this behavior, of course. If I go back to the backend and say I don't want to see the mean, the average score, I actually want to show a % favorable. Let's save this. And let's give this a second and reload this. Go back to the results. Now you see it's using the % favorable. So on the 5-point scale, in this case, it's what percentage has clicked the answer choices 4 and 5. In this case, it's just 33%. Here it's 67%. Quite good. And we can see this, of course, in detail. So here we see that most of them, in this case, actually, I think it's just 3 participations. So we see that here the majority clicked agree or strongly agree in this case. But let's have a look at the other template options. I have a little bit nicer demo that I don't want to modify. Quickly changing the portal here, where we have job satisfaction check, improvement of work and leadership. And let's have a look at those. And here we also have the simple template in use, or the basic one. It's not simple, it's actually quite nice if you just want to get some descriptive statistics and insights. So this just lists the questions that you have in the survey, and with the same option here using average or the top %, in this case using the top %. We also see here some background, so variables for power users, how this is distributed, the survey results, and then can go here into the details. And here we also activated the explore option. So if you use the U variables in the background that contain maybe location, job status, customer segment, you can explore the data a little bit more detail, click on explore, say we want to use a breakout, and then we see here, for example, the split for are you a manager or the work area, and see here, in this case actually quite large cross tab, and can compare the data in detail. And again, this is automatically generated. You would just in the background tell the system which variable to use as a breakout, and then it creates all these cross tabs and charts automatically. And you have then here some standard configuration options to explore the data. So this is the basic template. Actually, of course, there are comments here, so we can see the comments that were submitted from text question. Then in the other example, in the other survey, we used the category guide with just a few, I clicked on actions. Let's stay here. Let's go to the improvement workflow. And here we use the one that I just showed you. Just in addition, we also activated here the explore results option. So we have here a background variable used. So let's click that. And here we can now also compare the data in this case. There's a gender variable, again, could be whatever background information variable that you use in your surveys, and you can compare the data here in a cross tab, and it will arrive live even if you select this here. See the response rate, and in this survey we also have a few more questions on the category. Let's go, say we go to well-being, and then we see here well-being aggregates based on 3 questions. Actually, we can evaluate them also combined or separately, and go into this detail here. And then we see again the answer distribution, how many answers we have. And the last template that we have at the beginning or at the release of this module is this multi-rater template. Here again, it's used for leadership feedback. So if you want to give your leaders opportunity to improve and do this without performance measurement, essentially as an improvement tool, then this is a nice solution where they can initiate this on their own whenever they want. And the difference here is that the system separates the results in strength and development areas, or the weak, the low rated areas in a survey. And let's have a look at the strengths. So let's see what I'm positively rated in, and then it's differentiated here to known strengths. Known strengths are the ones where I, as a leader, also rate myself high, but also the team or the other groups, you see here, managed team and peers rated me, also rate me high. So I know that I may be good in these areas, but here there's also some areas where my self-perception is quite low, but the other groups, they rated me high. So there's some hidden strength that maybe I was not aware of as a leader, and I could actually work on this. And actually maybe then I know that I'm strong in this area, and of course can do the same, go into the results, then everything is split by these different rater groups, and can do similar things, explore the data. This small arrow icon indicates actually how I rated myself, so I can see in which area maybe I need help or want to grow, or actually where I'm better perceived as I thought. And the other way around with development areas, there are the areas where I rated myself quite high, but then actually my team and the other groups rated me lower. So I thought, I would be good in fostering collaboration, but actually my team and my managers know that's actually not really the case. You should work on that. And that's then a development area where I can develop my leadership skills. Back here, and of course here also we have the comments, no comments in this case, but they would show up. And here we have this tips area. So if you would provide us with tips and learning material, then this can show up here for there's a company specific information, but we will also provide some standard material here for use cases to show some generic tips, especially for solutions like the Leadership 360, where we know the use case, and that might be, of course, a little bit different from company to company. Actually, last point here that I wanted to show is the results by rater group. And here we see then really the distribution. So I see my self-assessment, I see everyone aggregate, I see the manager. Actually, I see here a lock because the anonymity threshold is used. So we haven't really reached the anonymity limit yet. Maybe it's still live. So we might receive data here in a moment or in a week when we reminded people. And yeah, here we even can compare this to a relative to the self-assessment. So we see this my self-assessment, see here that this differentiates from my self-assessment in a positive or negative way. So here, leading by example, I say, hey, I'm quite good in this, but my manager and the other groups actually say, hey, that's not your strength. That's some development area we should work on. And the other way around. So for reward and recognition, I say, hey, I'm really not good at this, but actually it is perceived differently by other rater groups. Okay, anyway, but those are just contents. These 3 templates will be available at the beginning that for the guides. There will be more and more available. Yeah, you heard me saying that this is connected to guides. That's how it is currently. These dashboards are for guides, but in the future, in the next releases, these dashboards will also be available for other surveys. Yeah, so far my part. Let's have a look if we have some questions.
Yeah, I've been looking at those, Luca. So first of all, thanks for taking us through each of those templates. So we've got a few questions in. We've got one in from Antonio, and I think you may have just answered the question. So he said, these dashboards only work with portals, or can they be used with projects?
Yeah, they are currently just for portals, but specifically for guides. And the plan is, of course, that they will also be available for projects in the future. Yeah, we will let you know when this happens, but it's something we are already working on.
Absolutely, Antonio. And if that's something that's really of interest to you, just drop us an email, and I can make sure that as soon as I hear anything about that, I can reach out to you. Then we've got a couple of questions here from Luke. Are these dashboards applicable for all types of guides? So he's asking specifically around the ideation guide. Do we have a dashboard template for that one?
I mean, the ideation guide is a little bit different, right? Because it's mostly suggestions that go to the action board. There is no dashboard like this in this case. For the ideation guide, if you have used it already, there is an overview of the suggested ideas and actions, and there are interfaces similar to this where you rate these and you see which idea or action was recommended or rated best. So this exists, but it looks a little different. It's less charts like this. It's a little bit more tables. Yeah, that's I think this workflow is supported, but doesn't look exactly like this. But we can show you if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, Luke, we can pick that with you separately, and in fact, I potentially can point you to a recent webinar not so recent, but a webinar where we may well have demoed that. And then another question from Luke around the standard dashboards. Do they support MPS? Do they, I guess, have an output for that?
Yes, it doesn't have a separate visualization yet, but that's actually something that we already discussing. It will also be made available in one of the next templates. But of course, the data can be accepted, but there's no widget for this yet, but there will be one in the near future. Yes.
Great. We've got another question here just around changing the dashboard outputs or supporting text, and I think I know the answer to this one. I think at the moment that's not something that's possible. However, in the future that might become something that is possible. One thing you'll obviously see next week is when we look at the My Site dashboards, those are obviously something that can be designed specifically for your use case. So if there are certain things that you would like to see in a visualization, then obviously that's something that we can cover off. And then one question which I don't know if we did cover is that are these available in different languages at this stage, Luca?
Yeah, so the text elements that are part of the dashboards are currently available in English and German, but of course the text really from the survey that will be imported in any language, and yeah, maybe the other text, depending on the requirements and needs, will also be translated in other languages soon. But right now in this release, it's English and German.
Thanks, Luca. So time for any more questions. I don't see any more coming into the chat. So one thing I think, as Luca has alluded to during his walkthrough of the different areas, this is something that Tivian have definitely putting a lot of investment on the technical side. So we are making a lot of changes to the out of the box dashboarding that will become available to you. So hopefully over the next kind of 6 to 12 months, you'll see a lot of changes that will give you greater flexibility and be able to apply out of the box configurable dashboards without the need for potentially any Tableau involvement. In the interim though, we do have a BI team that can support those, and that's what we'll be looking at next week with David, one of my colleagues from the BI team, or in the case of some customers, you might have your own Tableau expertise. So if you are interested in that, then we can also look at hooking you up to that as well. So, there are options available to you. So I guess it's time to bring today's session to a close. So I just want to say thank you from me for you all joining again and remaining attentive throughout. Really appreciate it, and great questions from everyone. And I will see you next week.
Thank you. Have a great day.